Hello, 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 hello. Are we live? Can you hear me?
We're live.
I didn't get the notification on my phone, so I hope we're live. Um, Welcome to Thursday's Confident Leadership Series, special edition International Women's Day, a day early officially, but it's International Women's Month. And I am your host, Kristen Gutierrez. I am a best-selling author, keynote speaker, speaking on topics such as getting out of your own way, taking massive amounts of action, and leaning into failures for growth. I'm so excited today to be joined by three amazing panelists. This is the first of doing so many, so this is fun. Ingrid Christensen, Lee Densmer, and Pia Bresnan. Pia, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you, Kristen, for reaching out and inviting me into this forum to discuss this topic. It's very near and dear to my heart, really, especially in the later years. I have been here at Uber for about 5 years. I lead the program management team here. We have 3 other verticals in the globalization team, and I was on the vendor side as well. So it's very interesting to see leadership from the woman's perspective, both on the vendor and on the sort of the buyer side. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Pia. Lee, you know Pia, right?
I do, yeah. And I know everybody on this call from just years in the same industry. So I'm Lee Densmer. I have a year ago, like Saturday, a year ago, opened up my own business. Yes, I am celebrating that in a big, huge way. And we can talk about that. But I'm a content marketer, full service content marketing, building strategy and running programs. And what an empowering thing to do for women to start their own businesses. So, yay. And
I love that.
Thank you. Yep.
Amazing. Okay, cool. And last but certainly not least, Ingrid Christensen. How are you?
I am fabulous. What an amazing panel of super strong women. I am honored to be here. 25 years ago, I stepped into the industry of localization, not at all expecting that I would still be in it, but here we are, like many of us, right? I am now the president and owner of Enco International. We are a full-service language service company based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We just turned 18 last month, and I know how big the 1-year anniversary is, as well as every single anniversary after. So make sure you take time to celebrate those wins. They're really important, especially as women, which I'm sure we'll talk about. We are the least likely to actually celebrate ourselves, which is a little bonkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we all happen to be moms, and we were talking right before we came on about, my children are clearly a little younger, but my sister has kids, as you do, some of you do, nearing or in college, and all of the things that come with that and the challenges. And maybe that ties into our topic of leadership styles. But let's talk about leadership as it relates to work. When we say, when we introduce this topic, Ingrid, right? Like what comes to mind for you with overthinking or apologizing for our leadership styles?
Yeah. So this is something I've really tried to put some thought in over the last, 6 or 8 months, because I think it's really well recognized that male and female leadership styles are different. Just by nature, we can argue that, all day, another day. But we lead in different styles. We have different styles. And I kept hearing women almost wanting to apologize for their leadership style and over explain it, right? Like, well, I lead in a more gentle manner. I am more collaborative. I like to listen, some of these buzzwords. And while I think it's absolutely amazing that we recognize our differences and what makes us unique and really kick-ass leaders, for the record. I do think I mean, look at the women on this panel. But I do think it's also time that we step into that and just own it, and maybe stop thinking that we have to apologize or that we have to over-explain ourselves. We don't need to. Men don't walk around over-explaining them. Well, they do, but that's a different topic also. But they generally don't feel the need to apologize for their natural traits, where women do. And so that's something that I'm really starting to spend some brain power on, and just figure out, how can I continue to lead, and how can I be the best leader for my team and for all the other women that are watching me, and all the other women that have come before me, and all the other women that will come after me. And how can I do that in a way that is really authentic and really owns my personality and my style? So it's a little bit of a work in progress, but that is something I really wanted to point out, Kristen.
Yes. I love to control the panels, but I'm going to say, let's throw caution to the wind. I don't want to control this panel. If Ingrid, Pia, jump in, because there is so much to be said in everything she just said. So what's your own perspective? And
I just wrote down two things. The stereotype of leadership and the standards for leadership. And I believe that those are white male. I'm just going to say it. So when people think of strong leadership, especially historically, it is kind of the white male standard, right? Authoritative, intelligent, bold, command and control. And when we're held up to that standard, we don't, and I don't want to say stack up, we don't match it and we don't fit it. So maybe it's time for the standard of that leadership to change. And the best male leaders that I've worked with have taken counsel from women and minorities, and taken, best practices from many other places, and they're very open to the different leadership styles. The best female leaders do the same thing. They look at where other people have succeeded and integrate those into their style, but they also own their own style. Is it empathetic? Is it listen first, speak later? Is it surrounding yourself with other smart people and bringing them up along with you? Is it humility? It's all those things. But what do we do to buck that stereotype and those standards, and broadcast different and maybe even better ways to lead?
I mean, I think from a historical perspective, right? The leader, as you say, Lee, was a white male, where there was no EQ. All of these buzzwords that we're saying right now, there was none of that. It was, they were the way they were, and it worked because they were men. And as time goes by, all of a sudden, women are entering the workforce. They're seeing certain women succeed. What are the traits of those women to help them succeed? They're pulling from the strategies that these white men have, and they're contorting themselves to be that, because that's what success means. I want to say, when I started in telecom back in the, 90s, when I went to a conference, it was all men and maybe 5 women. The only women were in the sort of the trade show area, displaying the various services and products in very much sort of in a scampy outfit.
And a white
shocker to me. I came from Europe. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a patriarchal environment in Europe either, but the fact that there was multicultural, multilingual, multicolor coming into this room with only white males shocked me. And I've just put it aside, but little by little, I want to say, and especially in joining in localization and having culture surround me, all of a sudden I realized, I don't have to be the guy. I can be my own self. And what does that mean? And so this has to be a shift for all of us. Who am I? what kind of a person do I want to be? Let's forget male or female, because at this particular point in this juncture, I want to say 2000s, all of these buzzwords were coming out, and all of these books on how to be an empathetic leader and what does good leadership look like and what is a successful leader. So all male and female were being trained on what does a successful leader look like. And I just tend to feel that maybe women have a little bit of an upper hand because we tend to be more in touch with our emotions. And that sparks a conversation with the person in front of you on how there is chemistry between one person and one person and one person. Maybe you have a team of 20, maybe you have a team of 100, but that chemistry is something that emanates and we can recognize. It's something that men have to learn, which they have been reaching out to other female leaders saying, hey, what are you seeing? And then we're reaching out to them about more constructive, objective leadership activities that will make us successful. So personally, I don't think we're on equal planes, like you guys say. It is a different style. It is successful for how we operate as females. But the other, sort of stereotype that I'd like to call out here is authentic leadership, my authentic self. Do we really bring our authentic self to work into our leadership style? So I'd like to call that one out.
Think about that a little bit.
Call it out.
What
I also
is it-
want to comment that this is like this transcends across all industries, right? I mean, we're in localization, and you're at a tech company, right? But like, I've become friends with a CEO at a big tech company who succeeded into the CEO role, and it just plays to your point that this is an older tech company, historically led. I have to say it too, by white men on both the leadership team and at the board level. And they were coaching her into the CEO role. And they were telling her everything that you said and how to lead, but as like me, lead like me. This is how we led. And she literally had to say, hold on, like I got moved into this role for a reason. I need to show up as myself. And I'm asking for guidance because I've never been a CEO. At the same time, I want to lean into my empathy and I want to lean into my authenticity. So yeah, Lee, what were you going to say?
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit more about authenticity because it is a buzzword and it sort of means bring your whole self to work. But as a leader, as a professional, you're not bringing literally everything, but you're leaning into your uniqueness and your values for leadership. So I mean, that's something I think we all struggle with. Really, what does authenticity mean leading in the workplace as a business owner, as a CEO? I love that story of that woman who's like, hold on, I'm not going to be you. That's not why you hired me. Like, thanks for the coaching, but I'll pass on half of that.
Yeah.
Lee, I think that's really interesting. I want to continue on that because I think when we think about authenticity, and I think we intrinsically know if somebody is showing up in an authentic way, and people want to know people at the heart of everything we do. Humans need interaction, we need community, and we need to, and it goes back to prehistoric days. We need to trust the person that we're dealing with. And the people that we're talking to and the people that we're working with. And I think one of the best ways, actually, I know because I researched this for over a year writing my book, to really lean into authenticity and trust is to learn how to trust yourself and trust those things that you're most afraid of. And when you're able to show those things, so when you're able to show the things that you are ashamed about, you shine light on that shame, it tends to dissipate, but that's what's helped create that human connection and the ability for trusting relationships to really flourish. And I think that that's one thing that as women, we've, for generations, we've almost led this caretaker role, right? If you will, like traditionally the woman was there to take care of the kids, and it's been very much of a caretaker role. So I think it's rather intrinsic in ourselves to be able to step into these roles. And I do think that that's maybe one of the reasons why women are able to be a little bit more empathetic and be a little bit more authentic and not be afraid to come to work and show our whole selves. Because hey, a whole lot happens outside of work. Like we're all moms. We know all the nonsense that happens behind off of the screen, right? It's a little bit of madness, but we hold it all together and we figure it all out because that's just what we do. But I think bringing those experiences into work, especially, makes us appear like we're more authentic,
Real.
and more real, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that can be working like, hey, yes, I'll sign up to work for you, Jordan. And, or yes, I'll work with you as a partner or a vendor. Yeah. I want to define, like, let's throw out some adjectives or definitions that would root us in the word authentic. And then I want to challenge us with this idea that, like, when I leaned into working for myself, April 17th of last year, you know, I would actually receive comments from people that would say, that had known me a while, say, wow, I've never seen you be more you on your social media. And it's really refreshing. But it gives me pause right now to wonder, because most of us don't own our own business. And if you do, and you have 100 people working for you, right? Are you allowing your teams to show up as their authentic self? And if you're wedged in the middle, do you feel like you truly have the freedom? Because when I took the job as VP of Sales and Marketing for Jordan at Language Network, I said, you know, I'm happy, I'm honored that you want me so bad. I'm happy to do this. I have to continue to be me because I worked really hard these last 8 months to show up as me. And he's like, yes, all in, right? But that's confidence that I have from having overcome all these imposter syndromes. So it's two things, like, what does authenticity as it relates to this mean to you? And it's double-edged, like, this is like multifaceted, but like, does it matter? I think it matters, like, what your CEO or your immediate leader thinks about you showing up as your authentic self, because it's hard.
I was going to call it out. I was going to call it out and ask you, Kristen, because you recently left, actually you as well, Lee, but recently left a big team and started working for yourself. And did you feel leading your team, because they were a successful team, even though, you know, they didn't retain you, did you feel you could show up as your authentic self, as a leader of a very successful team? So I want to ask you, Kristen, that question, because both Ingrid and Lee, you all three of you have been now leading your own organization as women, and you have the luxury to say, this is how I want to move forward. This is how I want to lead my company, lead my team. And I don't necessarily feel that is true for those of us who are still in organizations where they have a particular culture, whether the culture is good or toxic. It's very difficult to be honest and say, this is my authentic self, because there are a lot of different types of dynamics.
There's layers and politics and dynamics.
So while I say, yes, I feel that I'm my authentic self, I am not my full authentic self. So you guys should be super proud that you are in an environment where you can define what that is for yourselves and the rest of your organization, frankly.
Yeah, so because truth be told, I mean, we have to learn this over time. This is why we need mentors and other people to guide us, right? And no, the woman who gave me that feedback was right. Whenever I was buried in the org at Lion Bridge, or you know, the whole 20 years selling in our industry, I didn't know what it meant to be authentic, and I wasn't showing up authentically. I had a Kristen personal life and I had a work life. But ever since working for myself, and especially now in this role, like, I honestly said to him, which is why I can say this publicly, I have to continue to maintain this authenticity. And he's like, yes, this is why I want you. Right. So it was just a whole different layer playing field. And then now it's my responsibility to coach and mentor others. Like, they might not be able to rip the Band-Aid off where they are right now and just totally transform and show up more as them, but it's baby steps along the way. So now I feel a responsibility to help others lean into that. So I would say no, and now yes. Go ahead.
Kristen, I love that. I think
Yeah.
I just want to piggyback on that. It is baby steps. Like when I started my company, I had no business starting a company. I had no idea what I was doing. I was never a leader. I was never a business owner. I had never looked at a financial statement. I didn't even know that I had to pay business taxes. Like I had literally had no idea. And for many, many years, I had this nagging feeling in the back of my head, oh my God, I'm going to get caught. People are going to realize that I have no idea what I'm doing and that I have no business being here. And it wasn't until I verbalized that. I remember I was at a women's leadership conference thing, and I verbalized it to the woman sitting next to me. And she's like, well, that's imposter syndrome. And I'd never heard it spoken like that. And so, Pia, I think regardless of where you're at, it doesn't matter if you're in the biggest company in the world or you're just a one-person shop doing your thing, or you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever it is that you do. Nobody wakes up confident. Nobody wakes up feeling like they know what they're doing. We have to take these baby steps every single day to continue to step into that role.
And it's a role at work as well as in the family, right? Because
for sure,
we show up differently. I mean, I feel I try to be as authentic as I can, both at home and in the office. I love the idea, Kristen, that you mentioned, or the thought about coaching others. I took it much more seriously in the last 3 years because I saw my girls are young women, and I kept saying things that all of a sudden one of the oldest said to me, "You're such a feminist." And I said, "Yes, I am." But I'd never really conceptualized it as wanting to put forward and be an ally to myself as well as other women. And so that's when I started my coaching journey, keeping it on the down low, just to understand the perspective of other women and comparing it to mine. And somebody came and reached out to me recently. She said, "You know what? Because you helped me through this challenge I didn't think I could overcome. Thank you. Thank you for being you." And I was like, wow,
So powerful.
I was just thinking, okay, what are the young generation thinking about? And here's someone who genuinely thanked me for just some silly piece of advice that I thought was natural to me. And it helped her overcome a huge hurdle. And I was like, oh, maybe this is good.
I
So
love
mentoring women, I think is super powerful. And we need to continue doing that because we've all heard the stories, right? We can mentor and coach each other, but we're also our own worst enemies. We can also backstab each other to push ourselves forward in any kind of career situation. So we need to put that aside. We need to help each other forward more. I want to say this is my revolution.
You said so much right there. For me, one comment. It's interesting being moms and having kids watch you build businesses or become a leader and ask you questions. Mom, what about this? And it forces you to think about it. And it forces you to clarify it and explain it to your kids and really define what you're standing for. So my son, teenager, is really helping me reflect. And he has said, "Mom, you're such a feminist." Okay, well, what does that mean to you and your generation?
Yes.
You know, different generations show up different ways in the workplace. The younger generations are way more comfortable with authenticity and transparency. Whereas we're like, "I've never done that before." I kind of, selfies. Yeah.
That's an interesting. I think there's lots to learn from our young people because they just do it naturally, right? As I talked about this evolution, like first we had to figure out that our leadership style was different. Now we get to own that it's different. One day it won't be different. It'll just be what it is. And the evolution will continue and we'll continue to figure out what's the next thing to make us the best version of ourselves, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I learn a lot from these young people.
Lots.
Yeah.
Okay, this is crazy because this time flies, right? So let's start to wrap up. I do want to come back to this definition of authenticity and I can go first or last. I can go last just in case someone steals my word. I'll come up with another. But like Lee, closing thoughts, and like also what does authenticity mean to you if you had to describe it in a word, or, you know.
Yeah, I'm going to go fast. So, Kristen, you and I show up differently, and that's great, and that's okay, and that's perfect. And I learned from you when I see you showing up. You're very transparent, and you're very like from the heart, right? I'm a little more reserved. So, all that to say, yeah, from the heart. See, that resonates for you. That's what you want to be. That's your authenticity, right? And I'm not sure what adjectives I would use to describe mine, but transparency is authentic to you, right?
Yes, 100%. Yes, thank you.
It's okay to show up differently and with different levels of comfort for what exactly you're going to share, how personal you're going to get. What's TMI for some people is so not TMI for other people. It's like that'd be my advice to people is you do you when you want to be authentic. Figure out what it means for you.
I love that. I love that. Pia, Ingrid?
I should know this by now because I've gone through this exercise several times here where, they give you an enormous a page with all of these adjectives, and you're supposed to sort of circle the ones that are important to you, and that creates your personal statement. But I frankly, I feel more understanding. I'm rigorous. I'm open, but I'm also changing. Every moment of every day, your personal statement changes on how you show up. So I want to make sure that we don't engrave our personal statement anywhere, because it takes effort to admit the fact that you're changing every day based on the environment, based on the people you're leading, based on whatever you're working on. So for me, it's very important to acknowledge the fact that being authentic also means being open to change.
I love that. I love the word brave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Immediately I thought of unafraid, but then something about being untethered gives me a sense of freedom. And for me, freedom, I think, is being able to be my most authentic self, whatever that looks like in the moment. So I don't have a one word answer, but I think it would be something around untethered, or maybe it is freedom. I'm not sure, but something in that. I'd have to get out my thesaurus. I love a
now
thesaurus.
freedom.
No, I'm going to write that down because I really
talking about
that.
freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's freeing to be yourself, to not have to pretend like you're someone else. Because you think you should be someone else.
Yes.
But it takes an incredible amount of confidence and time and patience and all the stuff, right? Lots of quiet time, lots of reflection, lots of thinking, lots of learning and reading, because that's not going to be the same every day. Every day you're going to be a little bit different than you were the day before. So, yeah.
This was so good. My word was vulnerable, and it kind of played into how Lee described me, which I love. But it's also, I was like, well, if I have to come up with another one, it would be something along what Pia was saying, like constantly evolving or changing, or like that continuous learning that then you just also touched on, Ingrid. But freedom to choose. Yes. All right, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the conversation. I loved it. Thank you for starting it, Kristen. Thank you, everyone who showed up.
Happy International Women's Day. Cheers to all the ladies.
Women, go forward.